Weapon cases, a guaranteed way to secure green, blue, or pink weapons of either tier 1 or 2. From these cases, I've seen weapons range from Berlettas to Anvils, Torrentes, to even Tempests as well, and anything in between. I've also seen a couple of blueprints. Matter of fact, as of making this video and recording all the background footage, I came across 2 to 3 different blueprints, but sadly, I already had all the blueprints for the ones I found, but still, that's pretty neat. Now, I must say that weapon cases are not guaranteed. Sometimes they'll spawn in a game, but maybe next game you'll go check the same exact location and the weapon case will not be there. It kind of feels a little bit 50-50 in that sense. Some weapon cases do seem to spawn more consistently than others, but maybe that's just my personal luck, or I guess lack of. I have only included in today's video weapon case locations that I can either prove with the background footage or locations that I can prove its existence with visual evidence, such as a screenshot like this. I did have a lot more locations that supposedly spawn weapon cases according to resources online, but if I did not manage to spot it myself and I didn't have any visual proof of its existence, I of course did not include it in today's video. I also want to point out before we get to the cases that sometimes you'll enter a room that has multiple different locations where the weapon case can spawn at. One notable location is the Seed Vault in Stella Montis, and another is Santa Maria in Buried City. They can oftentimes spawn in different places within the same room. In today's video, we'll address pretty much all of the potential spawns, but I'll also try to mention to you guys when we're going over a location that may have the weapon case spawn on a different place, like let's say a different table or something like that within the same location. Now, as far as multiple spawn locations within the same room goes, I do not believe that it is intended for weapon cases to spawn in the same area multiple times unless the area is very large, such as the security location in Stella, for example. You can have 2 weapon cases there, but there are certain locations that I think it's kind of broken, like this location here in Stella Montis. It can spawn 2 weapon cases pretty much right on top of each other. I don't think that's intended though. Also, we will not be organizing these cases in a loot route type structure because I don't believe this is how you should treat this video. I also think loot route videos are a little bit more situational than people make it out to be, but I digress. I honestly think the best way to approach today's video is to just learn of these weapon case locations, and when you're nearby these case locations, you can always just go and give it a quick peek to see if it's spawned in your game so you can grab a free weapon. So I just recommend you to sit back, relax, and learn these locations to improve your loot goblin capabilities. Lastly, before we get to the cases, I'll also mention that sometimes instead of spawning a weapon case in its specified location, the game will replace it with either a medical bag, a grenade tube, or an ammo box. So without any further ado, let's get right into the weapon cases, starting off with damn Battlegrounds. Let's start off with the pipeline tower. We've got 2 weapon cases up here. So you're gonna have to either snap hook or zip line to the top of the pipeline tower. This location is also used to kill the queen from up here. You're gonna have 1 weapon case on the westmost part of the building in between these pipes here, and you're gonna have another one about to the right of this same location on this upper part right here, and you're gonna find it over here facing the northwest direction. We also have a weapon case near the power generation complex. On the upper part where you got all these electrical machines, you will find 2 pallets standing up like this right next to each other, and the weapon case will be right next to the 2 of them. Moving a little bit more east, if you follow the broken bridge towards the east broken bridge, right at the end of the bridge, you can do this little weird vault down, and there's going to be a hole in the bridge where there's going to be a weapon case and in a lot of cases other stuff as well. I found a medical bag, as you can see here. How did players even find this location? I have no idea, but alas, it is pretty good. Another good location is a little bit south of that location in the Red Lakes. There is part of a bridge that is broken on the floor going kind of vertically up, and if you go inside this bridge as well, there will also be a couple of hornet husks as well as a potential weapon case location. We move even further south of the electrical tower, or southeast of the testing annex. This is pretty close to a spawn. You may spawn around this area, so if you look at this truck here in the back, there will be a weapon case sometimes. So if you you spawn around this area, always make sure to quick check this truck. This is a good trick to get a quick weapon in damn Battleground. For the next location, between the testing annex and research and administration, there's going to be this sort of tower in the middle of the trees. And if you kind of climb up all the way, you might find a military bag. I think sometimes it can be a medical bag as well. And if you jump down onto this vent-like thing here as well, it can also spawn a weapon case. We move a little bit more northwest of that, and in this location where it connects with the big pipe downstairs where you sometimes face a leaper on, if you go to the southmost corner of this location, it can spawn a weapon case right here. Next, in the control tower, but not all the way up. Instead, at the bottom where usually all the fights kind of happen, below these big cabinets here, it can spawn a weapon case. This is that location that sometimes it spawns a fireball and pops as well. So give this a quick check if you're making your way to the tower. Of course, all the way up into the tower in the locked room, there can also be a couple of different potential spawns. There's about 3 or 4 different spawn places here. It can be on the table, it can be under these computers here that you see in the footage, and it can sometimes be on the further right here as well, around these other computers or near this window. So just make sure you check this room very thoroughly. All the way south of the map, there is the Formicae outpost, and here can spawn 2 different weapon cases. One is right here at the bottom on top of this desk, and another is a kind of a jump puzzle, which if you actually manage to go all the way up, it is kind of awkward. You have to get on these cabinets and you need to perfectly time your jump and then grab onto the ledge and just continually climb up. And when you make your way up, there will be yet another cabinet, and the weapon case can spawn right here. I didn't know exactly where it was when I was recording this footage, so I was kind of searching around for it. A little northwest of the Formicae outpost, you've got yet another different location that can spawn right here close to this generator. You can get either a medical bag or a weapon case, and I do believe it can spawn both as well. To the right of this, there is a zip line that you can kind of activate to make your way down, by the way, to save some time. A little bit north of this, there is the South Swamp outpost. Most people are gonna know this weapon case. It just sits right here on top of this couch. It can be pretty good because you can spawn around this location as well. Around the hydroponic dome complex, there's about 3 to 4 locations that we can find a weapon case as well. On the southwestmost dome, you can find one here either in the west corner of the dome, and you can also find it here by these waters as well. You can find another weapon case. When you move east to the other big dome, you can also find a weapon case here all the way in the back on top of one of these shelves as well. I believe it can vary between the left and the right shelf, but I'm not exactly sure. If you go a little bit south of the hydroponic dome within the forest, there's gonna be this sort of crashed car into sort of like a tower. If you climb up the vehicle, there can be a couple of things here. For example, in the background footage, I found a grenade tube as well as a weapon case. So this is also a pretty nice spot. You go a little bit southeast of that, and you can also, under this little rock here, you can also find a weapon case. Going into water treatment control, we can also have about 2 different weapon cases. You can either find one here on top of one of these tables, and behind where we are right now, there is a locked room, and if you have the key within this room, you're likely going to find a weapon case on top of this desk. And I believe you can find it on the ground as well, so just make sure to check around. In the water treatment courtyard by the extraction, you can also take this lift, and if you go all the way up at the end of the pipe, there can be a weapon case for you to loot as well. Although I probably wouldn't really recommend this, as this is a pretty PvP heavy area. Between the Formicae outpost and the South Swamp outpost, there are the water towers. And on top of these water towers, it can actually spawn weapon cases. On both this tower and the one farther out as well, both of these can spawn weapon cases. This probably isn't even worth doing unless you have a snap hook. I don't think it's really worth the zipline cost just to check if there's a weapon case up here, but I mean, that's really up to you. Back to research and administration. If you go 1 floor up and you take a left, there's going to be this couch, and behind this couch can spawn a weapon case as well. Near the pipeline tower and the breach, there is this bridge that kind of overlooks the matriarch location. and at the end of this bridge can be a weapon case for you to loot as well. In the same place around the breach, except on the opposite side where the bridge is kind of broken, underneath the bridge can also spawn a weapon case. And right behind this area, if you go through this door and you make your way down to the left here, it can also spawn a weapon case as well, as you can see there on the map and as you can see here in the background footage. Last but not least, for damn Battlegrounds, there is of course the Floodgates weapon case. This location is very known. Players rush this area very often. You have to either come from the left or the right, call down one of the bridges, and you're gonna have to breach through this door. This door was unlocked here when I got in, but if you get here early, you're gonna have to breach it. And here you're gonna have a potential weapon case. You're going to have 2 guaranteed security breaches and some red blockers as well. This is a really big loot location in damn Battlegrounds. Now let's move on to some Buried City. First off, for Buried City on the library, you can make your way to the rooftop of the library, and here in the north corner of the library, you can find a weapon case right here. Also, a little bit northwest of the library, there should be a broken down bus, which can also spawn a weapon case inside of it. Now, on the more east side of the map by the Galleria, there is this big sign, and yes, as you might expect, there is also a weapon case there. But for this one, you're gonna have to either snap hook or zip line to the top. Just be careful, this is a very risky loot. As for the parking garage, which is a little bit west of the same Galleria, all the way at the bottom of the parking garage can spawn 3 to 4 different weapon case locations. So for this footage, I found it here on top of this blue tarp, but it can also spawn on top of the car that I just showed. It can spawn on the blue tarp and of course on the truck here in the corner as well. I think it can spawn elsewhere, so just make sure you loot this area very thoroughly. On space travel, if you have a JKV employee key card, you can get into the locked room on the 4th floor, and there's going to be a weapon case in this room as well as of course tons of other loot. Now there's also one in the southwest of the Murano Park, this building right here. In the attic, it can spawn a weapon case here in the corner. So if you're just kind of rotating around the map, make sure you give this a quick peek. A little bit south of that, in another building, you can also find a weapon case on top of the shelf here in the kitchen area of this apartment building. In apartment building A2 by Piazza Roma, you can take this zip line and you jump onto this room here, and here can have 2 different weapon case locations. In this case, I got it behind this white board here, but it can also be in the back left side of the room as well, right here where I'm showing it. Another great loot spot, this time for Buried City, of course, is Murano Station. Has a breachable room here that if you breach into it, there's going to be usually a grenade tube, these 2 breachable boxes, as well as potentially a weapon case as well. On top of the Murano Station, if you climb on top of a train and then you jump on top of Murano Station, you can also find a weapon case all the way out here. But remember, you are going to be pretty exposed here. Back to the southeast part of the map in Plaza Arbusto, you can also find a weapon case in this apartment here if you make your way up to the 2nd floor. It's pretty close to one of the train exits, so you could always give this a check before you extract. A little bit more southeast of that, there is an apartment building that has this sort of like tower, and if you climb up to the top of the tower, it can spawn a weapon case up here as well. Now, speaking of towers, also in the red tower, you can also find 2 different spawn locations for weapon cases. One is going to be up here in the metal part on this left side, and if you go inside the room where there is a security breach and some lockers, it can also spawn a weapon case in the back as well. Now, in between all the action where it spawns a bombardier or a bastion between the red tower and Santa Maria, in this little white circle here, it can also spawn a weapon case, but holy, this is a very risky weapon case for you to go for. Only go for this one if you're on free loadout. But if you do make your way to Santa Maria houses and you get into Santa Maria, of course, this is a fantastic location as well. It has multiple different locations for a weapon case to spawn. Just make sure you check out this entire courtyard for where the weapon case actually spawned, but it's almost guaranteed that there's always one there. Now, slightly northwest of Santa Maria houses, if you jump into this house here and you take a quick right, in this little room where the floors are white and the walls are white can also spawn a weapon case right there. On the bridge north of this location, the semi-truck that stands on the bridge, this is the only semi-truck that's gonna have its sides and its back open. I'm pretty sure all of you are gonna know what this semi-truck is. It can spawn a weapon crate here as well. I've seen it many times, but yeah. A little bit southwest of that, under the abandoned highway camp name in this building here, this is gonna be a building that you're gonna have to jump in from the northmost building. You're gonna jump in through the window and you go inside this room, and to the right under the table, there can also be a weapon case. Now then there's Grandiose Apartments, a place that I actually find has pretty mediocre loot. All the way on the rooftop of either the south or the northmost apartment, it can spawn a weapon case on top of these little huts here, at least on top of the south hut. On the north apartment building, as you can see here on the footage, you don't actually need to climb on top. Sometimes the weapon case is just going to be down here by the generator. On the northmost apartment, all the way at the bottom, you can open a locked room with a key called the residential master key. And within this room, you can also find a weapon case as well. Now back to the north side of this map, onto the hospital. If you zip line to the top or if you snap hook your way up here, in this room right here, there can be a security breach as well as a weapon case. The security breach is always there, but the weapon case sometimes isn't. Last but not least, for Berry City, we have the town hall. But as per usual for locked rooms, there's usually a couple of weapon case spawns, and this one is no different. There is about 2, but I actually think there's more weapon case spawns in there. Just make sure you check this area very thoroughly if you have a key. Now let's take a look at Spaceport. Spaceport also has plenty of weapon cases. Starting off with the trench towers, you can find a weapon case in the north trench tower. For this one, you can find it here on top of this desk, but sadly I did not have 2 trench tower keys for the background footage, but you can also find one in the south trench tower. Okay, I don't have the background footage for that, but here is a screenshot example of where you can find it in the south trench tower. So it doesn't matter which tower location you open, there should likely be a weapon case in there. Although I would recommend opening the north trench tower or using a zip line to go on top of trench tower, because you can find a second weapon case there. If you jump up here on this vent-like thing, you will oftentimes find a weapon case just sitting here as well. Now moving to the west side of the map, where there is a rival building. Also on top of the building on the rooftop, you can also find a weapon case right here, and sometimes this medical bag as well. Now as for inside the arrival building, on the southmost part of the building, there's going to be a breachable room, which sometimes you'll find it here on top of these desks. You can find a weapon case as well. Now, onto the opposite side, on the north side of the arrival building, all the way at the bottom of the elevator shaft, you can also find a weapon case here in the back of the elevator shaft. Now, you can also find one on the west side of the arrival building. Once again, at the bottom of the building, there's going to be yet another breachable room, which if you get into, you will find a weapon case here on the north side of the room. Now, leaving a rival building and going a little bit southwest, there's going to be one of those towers, which this map has a couple of. I think it's 4 or 5 different towers. And this tower up here, you can also find a weapon case as well. Now we're going to head south of the map. In between the maintenance hangar and the fuel storage, there can be this little red ball here, which I'm actually not exactly sure what this is. It can also spawn a weapon case behind it. A little bit east of that, yet on another tower, if you go up to the top, you can also find a weapon case. These towers are really good because they often have weapon cases, and they almost always have security breaches as well. A little more east of that, close to this checkpoint, or I guess the entrance of the spaceport, on the security office by the more west side, it can spawn a weapon case here near all this grass. Now moving a little bit northeast of the map, close to the rocket assembly, if you jump down here, well, not like this, but if you get down here around these blue areas, it can also spawn a weapon case here in the corner of the map. So if you're around the trenches, you can always check this out. Now on top of the rocket assembly, a little bit south of it, there's going to be all of these pipes hanging out. If you just climb to the top of these pipes, you can also quickly check to see if there's a weapon case spawn right here in this location. Moving south of the rocket assembly and the container storage, there is a container storage locked room, which is called the container storage key, if I'm not mistaken. Within this room, you can also have a weapon case that oftentimes spawn right here. Moving a little bit west of that by the fuel lines, close to the extraction, yet again, one of those towers could have a weapon case as well as, of course, a security breach if you do have that skill point. Moving a little bit northwest of that by the departure building, at the bottom floor, there is this breachable room, which if you get into, you can find a security breach, a ton of red lockers, but all the way in the back of the showers, you can also find a weapon case hidden here. You go inside the departure building and you go all the way to the top on the more east side of the building on this desk right here. It's gonna be kind of awkward to find, but you'll get used to it as you move around this building more and more. It can spawn a weapon case right on top of this, and it's a pretty easy weapon as well. Now, if you jump out of the departure building and you make your way down into the tunnel, pretty much down here on the map, it'll be pretty much on top of the departure building. Down here, it can also spawn a weapon case on top of these little computers. You keep moving east in the tunnel, and as soon as it makes this sort of turn in this place, you can find a weapon crate, and I've also found medical bags and other things here as well. So pretty much every time you're in the tunnels, check these quick 2 weapon case locations and you might get a quick weapon. Let's move to the middle of the map, right into the launch tower, all the way at the bottom. In the more south side of the launch tower, all the way in the sand, it can spawn a weapon case right down here. Now, if you go all the way up the launch tower, you probably already know these ones too. All the way up on the southeast tower, it can have a weapon case right up here. Now, on the northwest tower, inside the tower, you can find a weapon case. And last but not least, in Spaceport, we got one on Control Tower, A6 in the locked room. This one's also going to require, of course, the control tower A6 key, and then you go all the way up, and around this room you can find a weapon case. Seen this in a couple of different places around this room, but this is where the exact location is for the picture. Now let's get into a more PvP heavy map, the Blue Gate. On Blue Gate, on the west side of the map by Raiders Refugee, you can find a weapon case on top of this little church, close to this bed right here. Also on the same exact location, as you may know, there is a puzzle downstairs which you must press 4 different buttons to activate this door. I'm not going to go over how to complete this puzzle. It's better if you just watch a video on it. But if you complete this puzzle and you get this door open, when you go down here on top of this bed, can have a weapon case. And of course, there's other loot as well as a security breach as well. A little bit south of that by the adorned wreckage, if you climb this big machinery, it can have a weapon case up here as well. I would just check from the bottom to see if it's there first before you make the climb up here, because I got up here with 4 minutes left on the clock, but realistically mid-game, this is going to have tons of AI and players as well. Back to close to the Raiders Refugee, a little bit east of the Refugee, there's going to be this little house which has a basement, which if you just jump in here, it can have a weapon case here right in the northmost corner. We go all the way north of Raiders Refugee by the village. If you have a village key, you can open the locked room and you can find a weapon case on top of this shelf as well. Now moving towards the middle of the map, dead in the middle of checkpoint, there's going to be a bus, and inside this bus you can find a weapon case in the back of it. As you're making your way towards the tunnel, there's going to be the zip line which you can take, and then there's going to be a sofa in the middle of nowhere which can have a grenade tube as well as a weapon case up here as well. Now when you go inside the tunnel, if you take a quick right in this room underneath the staircase, you can also find a weapon case just sitting right there. Now inside this tunnel location, there's another puzzle room which you're probably familiar with, that has the red room. Now this room will also require a little bit of of a puzzle game. It's not too difficult. Once again, I would just watch a video on it. But in this location, you can also find a weapon case right there. Down here around the same location, another very common location, probably the most PvP heavy area in all of Bluegate. There's going to be this room right here, which is going to be a breachable room. And inside this room, there's going to be some lockers as well as a weapon case and 2 security breaches. So this is really good to get some good weapon. Now back to inside the tunnel. On the northeast side of the tunnel, all the way in the back, you can find a weapon case all the way back here. You can also find one on the northwest side of the tunnel. So both ends of the tunnel, you can find a weapon case just sitting there. Around this tunnel area, there's also going to be these armored trucks, which are going to require you to open them with a patrol car key. And this one can vary. So kind of ignore the location which I marked there. This is just the general location. These armored trucks will change from game to game. You got to find which truck is the locked one. And when you open it, it will always have a weapon case just sitting there. Now, if you go up the tunnel in the reinforced reception, if you go out of the reinforced reception, you can find a weapon case here on these walls as well. Now we move a little bit east of that. If we go into the head house from the top and you go down here, there's going to be these sort of like ledges on the edges of the head house. And it can have one either on the northwest side of the head house, but you can also find it on the southeast side of the head house as well. So make sure you check both sides if you're looking for a weapon crate here. Now, if we go out of the head house and we go into the warehouse complex, on the middle rafter, if you go all the way to the end of it, it can have a weapon case spawn on the way back here. A little bit south of the warehouse complex, there's going to be an entrance here to the tunnel, and they're going to look like these 2 zip lines. If you go all the way down, you can find 2 weapon cases here as well. One on top of these vents right here in this location that you're seeing, and you can also see it on top of these pipes as well. So as you can see there in the background footage, I found both weapon cases in one run. Now, if you go all the way northeast of the map by Pilgrim's Peak, there is a locked room, which once again, I did not have the key for this footage, but inside that room, you can also find a weapon case in this location. All the way south of the map by the ancient fort, there's yet another puzzle that if you complete that puzzle, a locked room will open. And if you go in that room, you can also find yet another weapon case. For the last map in our creators, we've got Stella Montis. On assembly line, right in the middle of this rocket thruster, I think this is a rocket thruster. If you jump in here from this room, you can find a weapon case. And like I said earlier in this video, you can even find 2 weapon cases here. Right north of this location in this room, if you go to the 2nd floor, you can also find a weapon case by this pillar here. Now moving a little bit southwest of the map in medical research, there's 2 weapon cases that you can find here as well. One on top of these red servers, you can find a weapon case, and to the right of it, you can always find a medical bag as well, or at least almost always find it. And of course, the locked room in the medical research area will also have a weapon case here in the corner for you to loot. Now, if we step out of the medical research towards loading bay, we can also find 2 weapon cases. The south side of this location, on top of this container, may have a weapon case as well. And on the left side by cargo dock A, you can also find a weapon case here on top of this white container, which you've probably completed a quest here as well. On top of this container, you can find a weapon case as well as other important bags. Now, if we head a little more east of the map in the atrium, you can go to the cafeteria, and inside the kitchen in the corner of the room, you can also find a weapon case right here. If you step out of the atrium and you go towards communications, which is this really dark room, if you go up just 1 floor in this middle pillar here and you go underneath these staircases, you can also find a weapon case hidden right here. If you leave the communications location towards the auditorium, you can also find a couple of weapon cases here in this main lobby here where all the PvP kind of goes down. There can be a couple of weapon case locations. You can find it at the bottom of this auditorium. You can find it all the way at the top. You can find it underneath a table. You can find it anywhere here. I see at least 3 to 4 different locations. So just make sure to clear this room thoroughly. If you leave the auditorium and you go towards the security bridge, another heavy PvP location. Well, I guess every location in this map is heavy PvP, but in the security bridge all the way at the top, you can find a weapon case right up here. So if you're the first one to this room, you have this weapon case, and you have yet another one. If you cross the bridge all the way to the opposite side, you may find one on the right of this chair right about here. But if you go back into the security room and you go all the way at the bottom, you can also find a weapon case at the bottom of the staircase underneath it. And that's pretty much all of them for this top floor. Now, if you go to the bottom floor, the seed vault, for example, on the southeast part of the map, if you manage to open the seed vault with a fuel cell, there can be a couple of different locations here as well. I found at least 3 to 4 different weapon case locations here. It can be either here where I'm showing, or all of these locations which I'm pointing out, which has the medical bag, ammo boxes instead of it, which in this background footage, of course, there is medical bags and ammo boxes. But as you can see there from the screenshots, they also spawn here. But yeah, sometimes it'll be there, sometimes it won't, as it usually is. Still at the bottom floor in the sandbox, dead in the middle of the sand right next to a shredder, there can also be a weapon case, which can be pretty good if you're coming in free loadout. A little bit south of that, in the control room, there's going to be this lift here, which is kind of weird, but if you use it, you'll understand why. You go up these pipes here, and in this background footage, you see an ammo box here, which replaced the weapon case spawn. But yeah, a weapon case can spawn here as well. And lastly, for this map, and for this video and for this location, there's also the storage room, which requires a locked key, which once again I do not have. But here is a screenshot of what the weapon case will look like in there. To be honest, I don't think I've ever even gone in this room before, so kind of curious to see it. As I am editing this video, I also came across this weapon case. If you make your way down to the metro station, right down on the lobby, a weapon case can spawn here, which is kind of interesting because I've gone down here dozens and dozens of times. I've never seen this weapon case, but hey, there's a first time for everything. So that's going to be all for today's video. That is all the locations. Of course, there's going to be more locations in the map that we did not cover. Especially, there's going to be locations that are going to be hidden that nobody knows of yet because of how complex some of these maps are and how hidden some of these weapon cases are. So yeah, I hope this video was useful to you guys. I would recommend watching this video once or twice every couple of weeks, just as a refresher to kind of remember all the weapon case locations there. You know, totally unbiased opinion. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video, man. And I'll be catching you legends on the next one. Peace.